here sounds like he has a pretty good intro for himself, so I'm going to let him do his.
Hello, everyone. So, I don't know, you might have seen me in EA's chat a little bit here. I'm just hopping on to an interview today. A little bit about me. I'm a 21-year-old Canadian college student here. I'm just in a trade school for welding. And I have been seriously engaging with the occult for the past 2 years and following some pretty heavy path workings and some movements. And here, what we're here to talk to you about today is basically facilitating solid contact with entities and what that entails in your life. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I'd like to say that those familiar with the Order of Nine Angles, we particularly like that 21 number as finding someone. What?
We're starting with some spicy stuff already. You're bringing up the 09A.
Of course, a lot of the things, the stories and stuff people say, it's like, well, a lot of it's is to chase away people who aren't serious. And you look at this stuff and it's like, you know, it's full of meaning. You look at the names and stuff like this, and I mean, there are people with issues, but you know, that's them. So what do you think is the purpose of life?
There is no purpose of life. It's void of meaning. That's what I've found at my workings completely. And that's beautiful. That they're really, like, if you think about it, it's hilarious. It's the joke that the gods have played on man because attachment causes suffering. That's what I have learned. Anything that you are attached to, you're going to suffer with. And with my recent working with necromancy, what I learned is that death laughs at all of life. And that instead of being, you know, horrified and scared and in pain and suffering, instead what you should do is enjoy all aspects of life. You should really focus on love and enjoyment, because at the end of the day, if nothing matters, you might as well enjoy yourself and spread love and positivity. And on top of that, if, you know, it's basically my philosophy is based on optimistic nihilism. It's not really based in anything else. And that's what I found with like anti-cosmicism and stuff like that. And certain, you know, Friedrich Nietzsche, he's a great philosopher. Check him out, Will of Power, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, I really don't see there being any other purpose in life to seek a will to power with an axiom on top of that. Otherwise, morality is the poison of man. Friedrich Nietzsche, once again, it's just people go around chasing themselves in altruistic, moralistic expressions of a higher ideal that leads to decadence of what they've previously sought to stray away from nature.
So anti-cosmism, is it more in the sense of like the sort of atmosphere, you could say, appears in Lovecraft, or is it like more like Asaphasia or traditional Oppermanism, or what?
Nihilism, not as in like Lovecraft. You know, I don't touch that stuff at all. I'm personally rooted in like playing with the Goetia and stuff like that, or, you know, what's it called? Excuse me. I forget the name of it. It's the Grimoire Verum, the one that has the sigil of Beelzebub in it, stuff like that. That's what I'm more like familiar with, you know.
Is there a particular Goetia or Grimoire Verum version that you prefer?
Ooh, version that I prefer. I don't really care. I do everything on my own. I don't give a shit what the Grimoire says. Most of it's just full of blinds and stuff anyways. Like, it's just, you don't need to call them and threaten them in names of God. You don't need to do all this extra shit. You know, you don't even need a circle. You don't need any of that. You basically need an N and a sigil. You sit there, you charge that sigil, you open the gateway. Because it's opening a gateway not only in your subconscious mind from the collective unconscious, but it's also opening up another gateway. Not on the physical, but just at the layer above. If we're looking at the Kabbalistic tree of life here, we have Yesod. And if we're looking at the inversion and the shadow side to this with the Qliphothic tree of death, right, we have Gamma. And what this is doing is, on this plane, it is the astral, if you know, is a complete another overlap of physical reality. It's the exact same thing, but it's antimatter, and it vibrates on a higher fifth dimensional degree. And what's going on right here is when you open this, is it's actually opening a double gate in the astral. And that is connecting to your mind, your crown chakra, and it's grounding through that, and it's being projected out into objective reality. Where then you can ground it and experience with in a tactile, objective format.
So people are probably more familiar with the idea that the goetic operations have the sphere of Yesod, or the lunar sphere or something like that. But wouldn't you say that perhaps the Grimorian Baron would be like spheres within the Saturn sphere, for example? Or
you're gonna have to define that. I didn't quite get what you meant by that.
Well, very traditionally, the Goetia, they have this idea. You know the Kabbalistic tree.
Correct.
Whether you're talking about 11 or 10 spheres, whatever, you still end up. So you rise from Earth to Moon, and the Moon is thought to be where the Goetia occurs. But then again, I guess So in the tree you have two things going on. So you have a pressed in sort of thing and a pulled out thing. So in dot, you would the center of the chest, you would have that expanded from every direction sort of dark energy versus dark matter, if you're going to put thing into it. And have you ever had that state where you actually feel that, it's not the wind, it's not gravity, it's like something else, like everything pulling in or everything
kind of like inward, like that inward pull?
Yeah.
I believe I've experienced that. I've experienced, I don't know, going into trances when I was doing a certain Clefothic rite, and I started to vibrate a certain Enochian word. And what happened was I started to swoon and I started to sway. Like I started to fucking rock back and forth. Like it was crazy. I started getting flashing lights around me. I started hearing poundings on my walls. I started hearing whispers. I had this electrical shot go up my spine to my crown. And it actually got me. It spooked me so badly.
Your gesture, the back of your head, or?
Yeah, by the C1 vertebrae right here, it came right from the root of my spine, from the Muldahara, all the way up to the Sasahara, the crown. It was like a serious electrical jolt. And I started to fall in a trance. My eyes were probably starting to roll back into my head too. And I was, I couldn't even speak the thing that I was chanting. I couldn't even chant it anymore. It was just like my tongue would not work out of my mouth. It was loose. My Quicksilver tongue turned to lead. It was pretty crazy. And I actually broke the trance because it scared me so bad with what was going on around me. And I remember when I was doing this and I was being guided through this operation, I was so angry at myself that I had broken this trance because I was working hard towards this. I think this was like my 7th go around of this specific rite here. And I remember speaking with Azazel on this, and Azazel's like, you have no idea what you just did, you foolish boy. Like, you just opened something that you have no idea that will transform your life. And he's like, you just had a major success. Don't beat yourself up over it. And what happened, what I learned in the coming months just completely changed me. And I experienced a full crown awakening. And I really believe that rite had something to do with that. And just a warning to anyone who works with Clefothic energy, or anyone who's interested in working with Clefothic energy or any sort of dark energy like this, it's going to change you. Psychologically, people will even say this physically transmutes you. It's gonna really have an effect on your psychology, because when I was doing this really heavy working,
physically, I don't know if you've ever said, there's apparently videos of some of this stuff, like people psychosomatically, even patterns of like swords and stuff, people strapped down that can because of course the idea is they're mentally ill, they're hurting themselves and they don't remember and stuff like this, but there's actual footage that some of these people, it wasn't that they were hurting themselves in that way, at the very least, is that they were actually certain things you can actually, I'm not sure if you can ever do it reliably
and stuff like that. Yeah, that's doing really weird movements where they're jerking all around, their eyes are flickering and fluttering. It's pretty wild. what is it called? With the way that the energy rubs off on you, you experience what's called vibratory contamination. You ever heard the saying, like, you hang around four people, hang around four business people, you'll be the fifth. Hang around four drug dealers, the fifth. People rub off on each other. It's much like this way with spirits. It's much like this way when you consort with them. And with the cliff off being a very heavy, dark, aggressive, specifically sexual energy too, it's gonna rub off on you. And I remember even after doing some of these rites, and I was doing some reverse breathing with some cliffas, and I'm not going to go into what I was doing with that. But this really changed my mindset. And for a little while, I had the mindset. I even caught myself as like, whoa, holy fuck, like, what am I thinking here? Like, the dude just looked at me. I don't need to go smash his face in, right? And I was looking at like an alien almost invading Earth, trying to build like a, it's cliche here if you're with the bog people, but the empire, you're building your empire. And I caught my mindset there, and I was like, holy shit, this is having a serious psychological effect on me. This is awesome. And you should lean into that. But the issue with leaning into that is you're really going to lose your humanity. Like, it's really going to change you. And I don't think a lot of people are really ready to, like, even a lot of people, like, I'll run into people at a witchcraft store, like, oh yeah, I want to work at this entity, I want to work at Belial, I want to work at King Payment. It's like, fuck, you don't want this. Like, if you really knew what this is about, you would go and burn all your stuff, and you would go run back into a church when you start having serious experiences. As it goes from being like, I feel like people just want spiritual escapism with this stuff. They don't want to experience anything that they don't higher.
I missed a word on spiritual what?
Spiritual escapism.
Okay, yeah.
Like Christianity, Islam, they just want to get down. They just want to pray. They just want to believe in something at the end of the day that makes them feel.
I wouldn't say that all of that is, but well, the escapism in Christianity is this vicarious thing, like other people doing stuff for you, like somehow counts for yourself or something. But did I lose you?
No, I'm ready.
Okay. It's just the video wasn't moving. One of the things I've seen a lot more recently on Twitter is this nonsense. It's like, we're not meant to enjoy this life, or all that sort of stuff. It's like all about some other life. And well, I think that's one of the main things that Nietzsche was complaining about is these people not where the eternal recurrence idea came from. Is like, you got to live this life like you're going to do it over and over again, not that it's something afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I've taken away from a lot of this work, is it's not about like what happens after. Because for a while that's what I was focusing on, and every entity that I was working with, like, they're like, no, you idiot, like, you are here and you have such a gift that is your life. Why would you just wither away and not like pursue something with it and do something with it? Like, I don't know, there's times where it's like I just sit in the house and I'm doing rites or I'm meditating. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get out and go meet people. That's what life is about. Like, go experience. The way that I understand existence is the only reason why we exist is we exist into relationness of nothing. Nothing is something, something is nothing. Principle of polarity applied. And we get correspondence. We apply the principle of correspondence. It's being a higher, principle here. We actually get that nothing comes before something, and we only exist in that relation. We are spawned from the void. And that's like when I brought back to, when I'm bringing it back to attachment here, with them, you actually are Doth. You are the abyss. You are nothing. And you have fooled yourself into thinking that you are this egregor, that you are thinking, your name X here, or this person, I do this, I do that. That's your ego. That is literally just a Russian doll that you fill to play a character that divinity plays through you on fucking strings. That's all it is. And when you learn to separate this fractal aspect of divinity from yourself and your ego, that's when the ball is in our court to come and work through you. And that's truly where, this power comes from. Because when I was doing spell casting and I was doing curses and whatnot, I was like, okay, how the fuck is this actually happening? Like, I do the money spell, I get the money. I throw the curse, I get hurt. You know, I do the love spell, I get the girl. It was getting to the point where I was just like, hey, this is like serious shit. And it slowly baits you too. Like the Call of the Void, before you go through the Dark Night of the Soul and you find this out, it slowly sets you up because it's like fishing. Seriously, they are fishing, trying to tell you what you are. It's a game that God plays with himself, not trying to wake himself up so he can experience things in dualism instead of being in non-dualism, nothing. People are like, that's like when Christ calls himself the Alpha and the Omega. What's the Alpha and the Omega? You come from nothing, you will return to nothing. That is the beginning, that is the end. This thing that is in all things. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. What is beheld in singularity? Nothing. What cannot be created or destroyed? Nothing. The astral, once again, principal polarity mechanics here. Nothing is something, something is nothing. Antimatter, plane of Yesod, you have the veil of Parkrith. It just vibrates on a higher degree. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's good. I would think. Well, I'm not sure. Say something. I'm asking you questions, but so you mentioned the void. How does this relate to void worship and void entities? That sort of talk.
Ooh. Okay, void worship, and are you going to death worship here, or just like?
I don't think it's necessarily death worship, but then again, there is that idea of a translation over, like, because it's sort of beyond this incarnation, but you got to operate this incarnation. But the void, like, okay, well, you're not these things that you're in. Like if you had that experience where, like the one of the things that started things for me is that I believed I was a soul or had a soul or however you're going to phrase it. It doesn't matter as much as some groups treat it like it matters how you phrase it. But I had an experience where I was, the body, the mind, all of that was just it was a vehicle. That was it. My real identity was like something else. Mm-hmm. And I've had other experiences like that. Usually not as explicit, but then at that point it was really like I am completely done with what I don't mean conservatism as part of group, but I was completely done with the conservative approach, like forever at that point. I was completely done with this vicarious thing. It was like I am the being operating this vehicle.
You separated yourself from your body, because basically what we are.
I had this multi-layered awareness, and it was like I wasn't the body, I wasn't the mind. I was this thing operating it, and it's like a thing that you can't like you can remember. You can remember, but it's not like you can imagine at the same time, because you can visualize stuff and all that sort of stuff, but it's not the spiritual. It's not the spiritual realities itself. It's a spiritual process, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. So my understanding of what happens here with samsaric consciousness, have you tapped that samsaric consciousness? Have you gone into that through a crown awakening or anything like that, or just having like a really hardcore experience of gnosis where you go, wow, I am a fractal aspect of divinity and I'm just playing this character who I think I am? You go through ego disillusion. People think, oh, it's ego death. And it's like, no, it's fucking ego disillusion. Ego death is going through the abyss and holding this void state where you transcend death and life. So basically what I was going to get into here is the collective unconscious. Basically what it is you have all observation in the collective unconscious right here by Carl Jung, pioneered in like 1950. So you have this tiny little bubble. You have this sphere of consciousness. And what happens is you slowly understand that you're just this bubble, and that's your ego, the sphere of consciousness, right? And what you actively do when you were non-attaching, you were depolarizing, and you were seeking what people will call ego death. I fucking hate that word for it. When you're seeking samadhi, you're seeking gnosis, you're seeking spiritual truth.
I think one of the things that happens is like you have these ideas of terms here in the West that don't have the same idea. Ego is I mean, psychologically, and the sort of thing they talk about, that it's a mental construction of consciousness. The false egos, that's what they're trying to lift in the East. They're not trying to destroy, you know.
Okay. Do you want to?
Or like karma. People speak like karma, some moralistic thing.
Yeah, well, I've learned that I'm completely amoral now compared to, especially with my last path working. It really made me lose all morality, and I'll tell you what. Basically, what happens if you look at nature? Nature is basically just the base layer of us existing, right? And if we look at it in a non-dualistic, Shaivistic way, drawing from Sikhism here a little bit, you know, the oneness of God and everything like that, and everything is one if it's non-dual, right? You look at nature, nature is fucking horrifying. As above, so below, as above. Everything is a mirror image of itself, right? So nature being a mirror image of divinity, nature doesn't possess morality. You know, said the spider to the fly, said the wolf to the lamb, said the lion to the man, you know. And as slowly as you understand these things, you pull back this veil. Like Nietzsche even goes into this. Morality is the poison of man, you know. The whole thing that, you know, certain religions have only existed to control people through means of, you know, altruistic egoism, and they've only survived through decadence. And they're used to cast a net over society so people don't seek a will to power to free themselves.
And you look at the base of some of this. Some of these things are coming out of being more popular now. Like, for example, like the idea that the myths are about us. It's not that we just read them and, oh, these heroes in the past or something. It's something for us to enact with or something. Or this idea that we are our own priests and priestesses and stuff like that. You find this Muhammad, Zoroaster buried in the Jesus thing. You find out that Confucius and the Buddhas that they made into the one Buddha and Krishna, all these figures, it was later they invented a different religion on it because they wanted a power through a professional priest class.
Yeah, you have the archetype here. It's the same archetype of enlightenment over and over and over again. You know, for example, if we're going to archetypes here of enlightenment or the illuminated one, we have the spiritual being or whatnot. We go into this in Jungian psychology here. We have Christ, for example, was nailed to a cross, you know, was killed by spear, died and was reborn and ascended, right? Ascended to heaven. We have Odin, who hung from the world tree for 9 days, who was killed by a spear, died, reborn, ascended a god with the knowledge of the runes. We have Baal-Hadad, the god of the Canaanites, slayed by his brother Mot, went to the underworld, died, reborn, became a god. We have Horus, I believe. It's Osiris, you know, being killed by Set, you know, being chopped up, thrown into the Nile River, being found to be placed back together, died, reborn, ascended as a god. It's the same fucking story over and over.
Very interestingly enough, the number 72 appears there.
Yeah, 72. You have 72
and all throughout the Arabic sources, basically, you got the number 72 too, as well.
You want a correspondence here that's going to freak you out? I'm pretty sure, if I remember the correspondence, I should have wrote this down. You have 72 angels of Al-Shem, right? You have 72 demons of the erzhz, and I believe there's another 42 of like elemental spirits that we're getting into. And then we have the 72,000 nadis from the Eastern yogic systems. We add this all together, we have 236, I believe. Adds up 236. And as we get to this, there is 236 like crystalline goop. It's like this weird crystalline substance in your pineal gland, and when that clacks off, you know, you have the crown awakening. That's just something, I was going over that with another esotericist there. But the number 72 is constantly repeating itself. It's a fractal archetype that you can see manifesting. And especially when we get to the yogic system, the 70,000 nadis connecting to the 114 chakras. That's like really, really interesting, actually. Sorry, it was the 114 chakras, 72 angels of Al-Shem, 72 demons of the erzhz. When you add them together, you get the 232 things, the gel particles in the pineal gland.
You said you've interacted with entities, but have you Do you have any sort of relationship with these non-incarnate entities?
Oh yeah, very, very much. I hold a few agreements with them. I work with them very heavily. I work with them every day. I've worked with them every single day for the past 2.5 years. They completely turned my life around. What it entails working with them, though, is like I have a very personal relationship with these entities, and it's not something I speak on. I don't like to speak on a whole lot of my experiences with, but I'm putting it to you this way: they will fucking test you. They will test you without any sort of question. They're going to test you. And sometimes when you're initiating and you're going through path workings with them, they're going to take a sledgehammer to your life to see if you run away from them, then they'll help you rebuild it. But the thing is, when they take that sledgehammer to your life, I just went through that with Belial personally. Everything that is destroyed needs to go. And whatever they take, they will replace with you tenfold. You know, for example, I don't know, I feel like Belial wants me to talk about him here a little bit. I feel like he wants some attention here. And what I've chalked up with working with Belial is, holy hell, he's harsh. But it comes from like love. You know, it comes from love from Belial. That's why he's hard on you. You're his student, you're his mentor, you're his prophet. He wants you to, you know, conduct your life in a way that is beneficial to you and be a king. And if you're going to go and fuck around and you work with him, well, he's going to give you the middle finger and he's going to teach you a lot of hard lessons along the way. Because a lot of people treat this like it's a game. It's not a fucking game. It's these acorporeal entities are serious, like very serious. And people are like, well, I did the evocation. He's here and he's just making fun of me. He's not teaching me anything. He's because the metaphor is you treat it like a joke, so he's going to treat you like a joke, you know? If you come to these entities with a serious level of respect, you come to them bearing blood offerings, you come to them bearing gifts.
Or much like the recent pop culture reference that I came across, there's new Beavis and Butthead episodes, and so like fire has been his Beavis's guide. And so Beavis is older, and Fire's like, okay, he wants him to do this stuff, and it's like, I just wanted you to apply yourself and and that sort of stuff. So it's not just a seriousness in the ritual; it's a seriousness in the life attached to the ritual.
Yeah, that's like here's a quote. You can quote me. You can quote Zachary Hawken for this one. Your life is a testament to your sorcery. Everything you do, okay, in your life must be controlled. And not really controlled, but you must exercise power over it. Like, for example, dude, I quit smoking weed. I quit drinking alcohol. I'm quitting drinking coffee right now, okay? Like, you have to seriously curate shit to the minute fucking degree when it comes to spiritualism, when it comes to your path. They're only going to take you seriously if you take this shit seriously and if you take your life seriously. People are like, well, I've evoked these entities and I don't have money falling out of the sky for me, you know, metaphorically speaking. I'm not having all these job interviews. I'm not having all these beautiful girls flirt with me. And it's like, well, because you treat it like it's a fucking joke. You know, like the things that I have experienced because of this are like, they're mind-blowing. And like, you know, it's the things.
One of the reasons why I think that the Goetia is more popular than some of the other ones is the variety of issues that it addresses in its symbols, in its names, in the associated list of appearances and stuff like this, is that it brings out more of those things for people who actually work through the list.
Yeah, I'm not really personally, until I go to do the Abramelin ritual. I'm not really. I don't really care about working with every Goetic. You know, I know King Belial. I know King Payman. You know, I have my friends. You know, I know Us. I know President Marbas. You know, I have my friends. I have my connections. I have my allies. If a spirit wants to work with me, it will come to me. I don't need to go evoke it. It will show up. You know. I gotta be careful what I say here. I gotta be really careful how much I give with this, because another thing is too that they respect is your silence. You know, you're gonna swear oaths to them when you get seriously into this stuff. They're gonna make you, you know, even like this, you know, like there's certain things that I can never speak on, and it's really gonna take you to that point in your life where, like, you know, people are like, oh, it's like, fuck it, they got verbal diarrhea. Like, you really think a king, like a demonic king like Belial, is going to trust you with anything if you can't even, you know, like, shut your mouth about the secrets one of your friends told you? Like, why would they tell you anything? You know, it's things like that. Another thing too, it's like working
Well,
hard.
just like when the things start, a lot of people tend to realize it's like, wait, this has been with me for longer. That sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I speak of the species that I would call drill sergeant grays. I consider it as a plural, like it's a whole species. But like for years before I formally addressed it that way, is like there was these things there. I just never contextualized it.
Hmm.
and and as far as people, you know, like all the experiences are there. It's like right in here, the most universally beneficial chemical in marijuana, anandamide, something like that.
Yeah.
It's apple juice. It's in all sorts of different apples, pears, all sorts of stuff. And so we have receptors, and yes, they can respond to the drugs, but first of all, we have all this stuff flowing through us that uh, we can manipulate, and we can do it in ways that it's super dangerous to do from the outside. Like you know, you don't have to, you don't have to do meth to have that level of experience, and it's nice to learn how to have that experience without the damage, without risking a heart attack or whatever.
By using these receptors and binding certain molecules to them to trigger a certain endocrine release within your endocrinology, you know, like I've heard stories of yogis consciously controlling their endocrine system. And I believe Don Webb goes over this in Energy Magic of the Vampire with the squirt of nectar. And this is something to do with the endocrine system. This is like your playing field here. I'm not super well versed in metaphysical biology when it comes to, I know the, like, some shit about the 114 chakras and the 7 chakra system, stuff like that. Not really delving too deep into Eastern tantric sciences, you know, dealing with the Agori and the cult of Devi and Vamakara. That's not really my area of expertise. If you want to go into more of explaining using certain chemicals here to trigger a certain endocrinology release, I would love to hear it. Because that's also, you know, if you look as within, so without, you also possess a certain amount of spirits with your body when you get into animism and certain things with shamanism, when you eat plants, meat, and food. That's why I'm trying to be very careful what I eat now when it comes to coffee or like anything, you know.
Like that that's actually one of the teachings kind of buried in, not per se you know, because there are Jews that carry around a little book because they can't remember all the rules that's either in their book or the rabbis have put on top of that or whatever. And you know, it's not per se about that, even though there are some ideas through cultures like universal things that aren't good for you, and other things that may be, depending on which group you are, and or you know, that sort of thing. There's always this idea, and it tends to be connected to experience too, that you got to watch what you eat, you know.
Yeah, you are what you eat. That's why, you know, one thing that's really horrifying to me, especially working with, you know, Belial, he's the king of nature, you know. There's a reason why they call him the god of lawlessness and anarchy. What's truly lawless? You know, nature. What's completely anarchistic and self-functioning? Nature. He loves nature. And let me tell you, he is horrified at the systematic slaughter of animals. He's like, you know, why can't you go hunt for your food? Why can't you have a garden? Like, this is the way that things are supposed to be. Then you've gone and you've injected this fucked up inbred human serum into the mix, and it's destroying my beautiful world. Like, what have you done with it? You know, he's very, very upset. And I've noticed that if you become very energy sensitive and you become very mindful, you become aware of these things, that you can almost taste that suffering in your food. I'm not kidding. it gets to that point with energy.
I can, for example, the method of slaughter.
Yeah.
There are two things that I can definitely feel that either the method of slaughter, the difference, or because your typical way that the your meat in the supermarket is slaughtered is they stun it or drug it, and that looks nice, right? But actually, it has a higher fear and pain response than your old-fashioned stab the animal or cut the animal sort of way. But on top of that, I can also notice the difference, even if per se you don't like feel it in your mouth, but when they don't drain the animal properly, because one, they want the more weight in the meat.
But the blood, they don't believe.
Yeah, they don't drain the animal, and they have it sit wrong or something. I could when I make the switch, I could feel the difference between that too.
Yeah, I definitely prefer all natural meat and stuff like that. It's definitely
and an animal that grazes, that tastes better to me too.
Yeah. Not some poor creature of the earth that's stuffed in the stall that's forced to eat, shit.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny, the whole pig thing. Well, first of all, it's like, really, you're going to prefer eating your garbage disposal? But okay. No matter what they do to it, they stick it in the stall, they rinse it, it all looks clean. It's not, things are actually getting worse in terms of what you can get from a pig, the way they're doing that stuff. And it's like, and yeah, I don't want to be involved in, it's like, that's not nice to the pig. It's meant to wallow around and everything else.
Yeah, that's really horrifying to me. And that's like this whole dilemma where people, it's like, no, we're good, society's good. And it's like, okay, look what we do to animals,
Well, and look at our aspect of war. You can kill thousands of people in a click, and you don't even have.
And yeah, you continue with that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Something happened with the signal. I'm not even sure if you said something. I'm not sure if I heard it, but because people think, oh, it's what you support, you're part of, but they detach us from it. So that's how they got this idea forward. That it used to be, it was a lot. People did what they thought they could win battles and conquer and whatnot, but for the most part, they had to get this some sort of idea that, like, we're defending ourselves, or we're going after their government. We're not going after the people in the field, or whatever the idea is. But now, since it's detached, they can kill it at a not just because they click.
It's a label they use to scapegoat it. If people, I don't know, there's a few labels like you could look at, like you could go communist, fascist, evil. These are all labels that give people a moralistic excuse.
And these political divisions, anyways, it's like that's. If there was, it's how these modes are being operated. Like, it really matters what you call stuff. I'd much rather be under a halfway decent dictator than so-called tyranny of democracy or something. There's a danger.
But they call it the political theater of power. I don't want to get into that spectrum side of it, truth be told.
Well, a lot of stuff's illusion, but yeah. So, do you have any beliefs about pre-existence?
I don't want to go and tap that. That's a little too much close to home here. I gotta be careful what I speak about with these things. It's just, there's a certain point when you hit with these entities, when you have a very intimate relationship, it becomes a very serious part of your life, and that's not something that I'm interested in going on to. Are you interested in facilitating means of contact? Something you want to talk about like that for somebody who's watching, who wants to understand how you can get into contact with these entities or anything like
that? Yeah, if you have any particular method or myth or devotional type or whatever that you would want to talk about in regards to that.
Ooh, okay. So really what I would do here, this is really simple. You're just going to lancets. If you're a little crazy, you can use a knife for this. You're gonna want 9 pieces of parchment paper. You're gonna want a burning bowl. You're gonna want a charcoal, and you're gonna want some incense that's astrologically specific to the entity, and probably some like offerings of food and stuff like that, of course. And just like another thing that's very important is like a daily devotion to this. When I was, trying to contact Azazel, when I was going out, when I was doing rites in the woods all the time, it only really catapulted when he spoke to me when I started to do the daily devotion towards him and stuff like that, even if they're small, right? So I would recommend take these 9 pieces of parchment paper, and for 9 days in a row, you're going to give a single blood offering, and you're going to charge one of these sigils. And when you do this, is you're sending this life force. Blood is like a spiritual currency. It's life essence, and these entities love it, and they feed off of it. It's something, I don't want to go too much into it, but when it gets into vampiric current and stuff like that, it's a currency. It's like money to them. And it's very powerful, and it's very potent, and it's very intimate when you connect your blood with this. You're giving that to them. So when you do this, charge, open, consecrate that sigil. I want to speak with you. And while you're charging it, chant their end. It's like, it's Ra, Cha, Balal, Lama, Kiba, Ruba, Nala, Rumham, Satalas, Invoke, Spiritus, Balal. When you do these things, you're calling them towards you. And a lot of people are like, oh, they won't speak to me. They're not here. They're not coming. It's like, what you don't understand, if you're doing this, they're already there. If you're obsessed with it, they're probably watching you, So when you take these sigils and you do this 9 days in a row, and you give 9 offerings of blood, you give 9 devotional offerings on top of that. And every day, if you have a mala, like I have right here, my mala beads, you can chant their N 108 times to connect with their energy, or you can just chant with their N. I recommend doing that 10 minutes a night. Just enchanting, playing with the words, playing with the power, feeling it, feeling that feeling of their energy wash over you. They might touch you. They might do stuff like that. I've had experiences like that where they touch me. And once you get set up on the 9th night, this is when you're going to do the rite. So if you know something, I don't think people would only own this book, but I'm not going to go into that with that rite. But you should probably do a small cleansing before you this, right? You give the final offering, and you take a bowl of water, you put some salt in it, and you just casually, like you're in the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you're going to visualize a white pillar of light above you coming through you, and you're just going to go, ta, you're going to pull it through you with your breath. Malkuth, you push your 2 fingers into the water. Vg Bura, Vg Dole, and the power and the glory. Then you start to sit there, and as you breathe in, you're going to pull this white light through you, this energy coming from your crown chakra, this emanation, and you're going to push that. You want to feel your solar plexus almost deflate and push into this water right here. And once that's charged, do it until you feel it's right. Intention's very important in this. Start to mix this, counterclockwise. You're gonna want to mix this with shins. I've noticed that's like when you're doing LBRP, you're drawing absolutely anything with an Lzwvmmh or a ritual dagger that you start. If you're pushing something away or you're doing something sinister, you always start at the left point. You always do widdershins. And when you start to do this, you start to churn that, and you say, spirits of contention, spirits that are harmful to me, anything like this. You start sprinkling this over the room. Get the corners, specifically get your mirrors, stuff like that. And if you do this, you're going to feel probably a weight lift off the room. Because once again, it's not going to do anything physically. If somebody thinks this is going to happen physically, I don't know. They're delusional. Because everything, the astral is completely layered over it. It's a double. Seriously, it's like your astral body. It's just a double of there. It's just, it's a mode of energy. And once this is cleansed and you get ready, you really want to sit down. You're going to want to meditate. And you're going to want to sit there and you're going to meditate. You're going to set your intention that you want to facilitate this contact, that you want this in your life, that you're dedicated to this, that you're not going to give up. You're not going to run away and go run back to the church, if it scares you, if you experience something. And then what you're going to want to do, set your burning bowl up right here. And let's say you're using an entity like Belial, or Belial. You're going to want to face this to the north. You're going to want to face this to his elemental correspondence, And you could also, an entity like Lilith or Leviathan, you're going to do this to the west. An entity like Azazel, you're going to do this to the south. Lucifer, Enki, anything like that, you're going to do it to the east. You really want to put a lot of time into this. And before you even go about this, right, you need to really do your research when it comes to these entities and who they are. Preparatory is immersion, because what you're trying to trigger is a synopsis with your subconscious mind, where when you pull onto their archetype from the collective unconscious, you are trying to overthrow your mind so you project it into objective reality. And even if that doesn't happen and you don't have the overthrow of the mind with trance and all kinds of things, they're still going to come from this. This is a seriously powerful right. So when you have their elemental correspondence set up, what you're going to do, you give that final offering onto that sigil. And you sit there, you chant their end, you chant their end. You do this. Sometimes, like shit, when I was first trying to do this and get in contact with them, I would do it for like half an hour, something similar to this. You get your incense burning in the burning bowl. You don't burn the sigils yet. And you get that going. You get that hazing. No triangle, no funky shit. You don't need any goetic stuff. You don't need a circle. Don't listen to this, you know. It's, trust me, everything is backwards. What a lot of people think they know is bullshit. Have it laid out to the elemental correspondence. Start, I come to speak with you. I come to honor you. I come to work with you. This is what I bring to the table. I recommend you have 5 questions prepared when you do this. 5 questions. Stuff like this, like, how can I be assistful to your agenda? You know, what do you want done here on Earth that you can't do that I can do because I am the microcosm? You know, stuff like that. What do you like for offerings? What's your favorite thing? You know, what do you like for decoration? Just like simple stuff, you know, try to befriend them. Don't just roll up and start trying to command them and, you know, the name of the tetragrammaton. That's going to get you bitch slapped, you know. And once you get this going, you get the incense going, you have your offerings laid out, and you get there. When you start to chant their end before you burn the sigils, the thing that I'm going to want you to do is I'm going to want you to reverse your breathing. This is what's known as, I don't know if this is like an initiatic thing, but this is known as clefothic breathing. This is known as reverse breathing. This is a mode of breath work. And what this is going to do is this is going to overthrow your mind. You're going to feel, if you feel disorientated and you feel gross and weird doing this, well, good, because it's working. And you get these 9 sigils and you burn them in that burning bowl and you're going and you're pushing and you get that burning, get that up. You're sitting there chanting, reversing your breathing. What's then you do is you construct them a vessel, okay? And this smoke of the incense and the smoke of these sigils that's coming up off of this is that, sorry, I got a burp. You start to construct them a vessel that they can fill. These are only energetic intelligences and they only appear to us as how we conceive them. They're completely formless. It's just an energetic intelligence on another plane that vibrates on a 5th dimensional degree of antimatter. It's really, a lot of this is science. It's not this woo-woo funky bullshit. And once we, basically, all you need is a torso, or not even a torso, a spine, a head, arms. You're going to want to visualize this in the smoke of these sigils. It's going to be fucking bellowing at this point. And, your incense that you have that they like, and you're going to take your right hand and you're going to push that out there. And once you push your right hand out there, try to feel like an energetic snap. Try to feel like a connection to what's going on and what's rising, because you're putting this through the gateway of fire and it's rising on an material level. So, and if you've charged these 9 sigils correctly, it's going to be emitting Belial's energy. It's going to be emitting King Payman's energy, and you can connect to this with your right hand, right? And what you're going to want to do, or you can even use your 2 hands for this, is you're going to go out there and repeat what you learned with the cleansing. Is you're going to breathe in, you're going to pull this white light down from you with this. But you could use black light or whatever you feel like connects you with this spirit or anything like that. For Belial, you could use green too. He loves nature. So you breathe in, you push out, you push into that smoke, and you're going to vibrate Belial, something like that. Then another word that you would vibrate that like 9 times, 11 times, 7 times, you know, do it with numerology, be specific. I would recommend 11 times because you have the 11 cliffas, you have the cliffothic tree of death that's heavily, you know, symbolic. You have in between the pillars with Kabbalah, dualism, stuff like that, black sun symbolism, all the way through 11. And sit there and vibrate that. And when you get to the 11th chant or the 11th vibration of Belial's name, or whatever spirit you're using, I'm just using him as a, you know, example right here. I've been working with him heavily. and you're gonna vibrate the word vhgz next. You're gonna want to vibrate the word vhgz 11 times. This is the Enochian word for recreation. This is not my word. I don't claim this as my own. This comes from the Temple of the Ascending Flame. This comes from Ascendeth Mansion's teachings. You can pick it up in the Clifothic Trilogy. I think this came.
And of course, it's in the 19th Enochian key, or the call the 30 authors.
Yeah, I believe this word either means dragon or it means creation. And now the symbol.
Or is it the 8th? My brain's kind of whatever. It's in the Enochian keys.
Yeah. The symbolism of dragon with this word, okay, the dragon, it's a serpent with wings. It means as above, so below. It means non-dualism. It means creation. So this word is a symbolic motive for a creation. So you are now creating this vessel for this spirit to inhabit. Now, once your mind has anchored this, it's going to click. If you do this correctly, you are going to feel a shift in this room, okay? People are like, well, I did the ritual and nothing fucking happened. It's like, no. Feel the room. You know, stop looking with these two eyes. Look with this. You know, it's going to happen as an internal process first. It's not going to happen externally. And people think they're just going to poof out a puff of smoke like a fucking genie. That's not going to happen either. It's going to happen internally. They're going to give you signs first, omens, all kinds of things. You'll get orbs, you'll get lights flickering before you see them. Then they'll materialize in kind of like, I'm not going to get into it, but it will happen. There's degrees to this stuff, but that, if anyone's watching this, that is a great way to facilitate contact with my friends of mine right there. So,
okay, it is in both. Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's in the Enochian keys. Okay.
So it is in both. You know, the dragon of death and just plain old dragon, right?
Okay.
Oh well, the stooping dragon. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that came from the Enochian keys. I guess that's where Seneth got it from. So. That's used very, very heavily in the Temple of the Ascending Flame. Like that word is like seriously heavily used.
I didn't mean to break you up there.
The last thing that I had to add about this is when you do this right, if you don't see anything, even if you don't feel anything, know this is like seriously like shooting off an SOS flare into the sky over an airport, or flying a drone over an airport, right? And expecting people not to come out and find you. This is like serious method to contact them. That's not something to fuck with unless you're serious and you want to speak with them. And what this is entailed to do is maybe if you have some underlying abilities, it might open you up as a channel right away. But look for the signs in your life. They will leave a fingerprint on your life, and it will be metaphoric and it will be symbolic of them. When I first started trying to contact Azazel, I was having nothing happen. I wasn't feeling any energy in the room, nothing. I was like, shit, is this even real? And out of nowhere, I was falling asleep one night, and half awake, half asleep, I get "make yourself strong again" in this crazy dark Clifothic voice that comes through and like echoes through my room. I was like, holy shit, okay, this is what it is. And I kept following it. And you're gonna get little stuff like that. They're fishing. They're seeing if you're taking the bait. They're like, come here, come speak with us, come work with us. They're gonna do it in small and subtle ways until your abilities start to develop with communication and stuff like that. And the most important thing when you're doing it, don't give up. It will happen eventually. Try to, instead of see something, because you're not going to see anything for the first couple of months. You're not. You're not. That's, and if you do, you're lucky. That's extremely rare. Personally, I see stuff all the time now. There's degrees to this stuff and how much they trust you. People are like, well, why can't I see them? It's like, well, it's like, why won't you get naked in front of me? Like, it's an intimate thing. It's a connection you have with them. Feel the energy in the room. You will know if they were there if you feel the energy shift. And, you know, people are like, okay, what's the energy in the room? Okay, let's just say your manager's mad and they're having a meeting and you walk in late. Feel the energy of the room. It's the same thing, you know. Feel it like as you're walking home, your family's there and they have a meal, you know, prepared for you. Feel the energy of the room. That's what I mean when I'm talking about these things. So if you feel like all of a sudden you're doing this right and the air gets extremely heavy and it gets hard to breathe in there, and like there's sometimes there'll be flashing lights, or like the room starts to get a little bit more shadowy and stuff like that, pay attention to that little stuff. Okay. You have anything to add to that?
So you talk about offerings. Is there any transmutation
Ooh,
occurring, or is it a handing over?
define transmutation here. Are we talking like from this gate? Because they want the essence of the thing. It's not like they're going to eat the fucking apple you give them. They're going to take the essence of the apple. You know, they're going to take the vibratory construction of the apple. That's what they're going to do on an anti-material level. You know, and once that's gone, that you can throw the apple out, you can eat the apple, but of course you're going to want to ask them.
Well, that basically answers my question to how that's treated.
Okay.
So I mean, I do have other questions if there's time, but
Go ahead, rapid fire.
I have, but okay, so I have so I have sort of a language
Ooh,
that I use.
if you're maybe not on the stream, but maybe after, we can compare some tongues here that we've been pulling.
Well, I have.
Okay, if I share.
Okay, yeah, we can talk off things, but I wanted to get your impression of something I have for you,
Ooh.
or about you could say.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to try to translate as best as I can after you say what you're going to say. But okay, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. I mean, as far as humans, there are only 9 part names except for vhgz. For some reason, he had his was 8, but a couple hundred other people, it was 9. So I don't know why in the world he got 8 versus ever. But anyway, so you know, here it is, the one that I got for you here. Lzwvmmh, rmtfr, mrkr, erzhz, vhgz, enwl, hkorp.
Okay, what did you channel there exactly?
Now I don't know entirely what it means here, but like for example, as I said, they're like names. I'll get them for places, for animals, for plants.
Do you get full impressions when you vibrate that, when you meditate? Do you meditate on those and vibrate that?
Well, for this one, it was kind of like that. The movement I felt was like that, which is weird because I mean, you know, because that's not how the body works per se, but
Yeah.
that's the impression I got with that. But I mean, some of them. Okay, I know there's this other word here.
And who did you
Because
channel?
I'm trying. I got this book. I got a little book where I copied it out. So the last line. So vhgz is a moral discovery. Enwl is a sign or a part of something or a symbol, and hkorp is an eclipse or a, you know, covering over to change. You know, that sort of idea. And rmtfr is operator. I mean, is a guide, and a mrkr is an operator. Lzwvmmh, that's what the language is named after, because I got all these chants related to the Goetia and entities like that type of entity.
Okay,
and so I didn't know what they meant. And I wrote them all down. And over the past since then, I've been getting what they mean. And sometimes, like I find out it's like there'll be something about. I think when I got the Lilith chant, when I started figuring out what it meant, all of a sudden I could find stuff about Lilith that I didn't know, that was already said, you know, for thousands of years before.
It's like a frequency that's attached to the archetype that when you vibrate, you connect to. You start to pull things from the collective unconscious, you know, from the astral. All of this. Whoa, how do I know all this shit? Or I get all this information. It's like almost, I don't know, have you experienced almost like a conscious download, like an immediate like snap of information? Have you had that experience yet?
Yeah, it's kind of like that sometimes, because like, you know, I write down a chant that's like 30 words or 20 words or something, and then I'm like, I don't know what any of this means, and then over the coming time I find out what it means. Or like when I had one of my Enochian spirit, I had an Enochian experience where I was like taken apart, like one of those shamanistic things where like they strip off your skin and your bones and all this other stuff, and then you're left with like so it hit me like in my Book of Bonorum series I talk about that, but there was this long string, and then when I write it down and I'm flipping through the books, it's like, what is this? And then I know what it is, but it was taken apart in my head, so I'm writing it down, and days later I figured out where it was. It was just, you know, the names and stuff taken apart. But then again, it's like everything was the thing. Like if you've experienced the Nokian tablets, like it's not just the entities that are listed there. Every square has its entities, and every combination has its entities, and you'll get specifically guided to combinations of that. But sometimes, yeah, I'll have an experience and something will come. I'll look it up and I'll like, oh, you know, like astral projection. You've had out of body experiences.
I've had a few, and every time that I've had an entity actually eject me, dude, I came back to my body flopping out of my bed like a fish. Like, you know, I don't know if you've had it, where you have like a vision or something comes to you, but it's like I wake up out of that, like I'm literally flopping around like a fucking fish, man, like sucking for air, freaking out. You know, I don't think it gets easier as you go on. Maybe it does. I don't know. But every OBE I've ever had, when it comes to an entity OBEing me, I'm scared the shit out of it. Which, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I love it. That's how I validate it as real. If it scares me so much, right? And it's something that almost becomes addictive, seeking that next experience through these entities. I think that's what keeps a lot of practitioners coming back to this, is that because it's so fucking real. When you get to a certain degree of practice with them, it happens all the time, and it becomes an addiction, it becomes an obsession, and you reap some serious rewards from doing this. If anyone's watching this, you want to take away anything from why we do this work, it's not just because you want friends, it's not just because you want a spiritual family, it's not just because you want to know things. You get shit in your life because of the work that you do with these entities. You know, once you have pacts and alliances and like you're a part of their agenda, you're a part of their agenda too. So they care about you. They're not just going to throw you to the fucking wolves. You know, they're going to, like, if you can, certain effects that you can expect in your life entailing is coincidences with money. I have coincidences with money happen all the time. I just had one recently. I'm not going to go into it. I don't like to speak on these things. But I just had a recent coincidence with a lot of money actually happen. I was having issues. I was going to pay for something. Like, I didn't have any problem paying for it, but it would have stung. You know what I mean? It's like one of those bills that you have to pay. And it's like, fuck, I don't want to do this though, because it's going to kind of like hurt a little bit. And just out of nowhere, I didn't have to pay for it. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. Especially when I went and asked for help to this spirit that I'm not going to mention. I was like, hey, what's going to happen with this? Like, this sucks that I have to pay this. I didn't ask him to do anything. I just kind of released this. So I was like, shit, dude, this is kind of shitty. Like, I channel these entities all the time. They're constantly around me. Like, I'll be in the middle of my fucking college class and I got black orbs like floating around me. I got these weird vibratory energetic outlines around me. And there's people in the class that like won't look me in the eye. They stay away from me. They're fucking afraid of me. You know, another aspect of this too is people come up against you. You don't need to throw a curse. You don't need to throw a hex. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to evoke something nasty and send it after. They just burn. Seriously. If something comes up against you and you're in league with these entities, they are going to burn, and I mean burn terribly badly. Whew. I'm not going to give any experiences here, but there's a few times that I've had people personally, even just running their mouth and bad-mouthing me, have horrendous shit happen to them. And I mean horrendous, like a life-altering. Like terrible. They are, you know. And another thing is too, is as you slowly climb degrees with these entities in respect, and you respect them, they respect you. If you have, you know, a goetic king who respects you and treats you like a king, and someone comes up and walks up to you disrespectful, they're going to take offense to that. You're their friend, they're your ally, you're their associate and consort. You know, you're kind of the deal. I'm not going to go into this too much, but you make a pact of Saturnalia with using the microcosmic gateway for them onto the Earth. That's kind of I'm going to leave it at that for anyone who's a little bit more advanced when it comes to that.
Have you ever had an experience that you have it and you don't hear of anybody else having the experience, but then you like you find out that you weren't the only one, which would make sense with anything anyways, but
ooh, okay, this is hold on. Okay, I was just checking there. I don't know. I've had a few experiences where I was like, I don't know, I thought I was crazy for a little while channeling entities. It's like, ooh, okay, I'm going off the deep end here. And I was channeling Lzwvmmh. Lzwvmmh just came to me, and I'm reading E.A. Wedding's voodoo book, and I'm going through that. The Spider and the Green Butterfly, if anyone's watching, it's a great book on voodoo. I've used it. It's serious shit. I don't recommend you play with it unless you're going to initiate fully. And Lzwvmmh just came to me and started talking to me when I was reading this book. And I was like, okay. And I was like, who are you? And he's like, I'm the gatekeeper of the crossroads for all of the Loa, the Petros, and everyone. I open the gateways and I initiate people. Okay. And I'm interested in you. And I flipped the fucking page and his vhgz on there with this exact description that he just told me. And I'm just like, holy hell, this is not, this is like real. This is, I've had it. And
well, I definitely, as much as I, for example, recommend path working with stuff and whatnot, it's not like you're collecting. I never collected Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or whatever. You're not. It's not in it for collect it all, but you do have to. Whatever you're taking on, it's not dabbling is. Oh, I'm not articulating. You know what I mean.
Yeah, in the words of like Sorceress Cagliostro, I'm like big fan of her work. I believe it's called her Blood Sorcery Bible. I fucking love that book. She's like, there's no such thing as an aspiring sorcerer. It's either you're a sorcerer or you're not. There is no pussyfooting around this. There is no I am half man. It's your balls to the wall with it or you're out. That's how
it's like what you find with a lot of stuff. Like you can't expect to be a whirling dervish doing the turn and stuff like this if you're not willing to spend the months to a year or whatnot working through that stuff. A lot of lodges and stuff like this, sometimes they have like some arbitrary period that they make you wait between stuff.
That's
but
like the stuff that I've looked at applying for is like 3 years, dude. It's 3 years for an initiation of the Temple of Set, I believe. And like when you first, that's the lodge, that's the order that I'm like pretty interested in. Temple of the Ascending Flame, that's the one that I'm going to recommend to anyone who's watching this. They seem to be really friendly. They're friendly to beginners. You can hop in and out at any time that you want. You need to be just a warning for anyone who's watching this, you need to be extremely careful navigating esoteric orders, because some of them are cults. Let's be real here. Some of them are straight up like crazy death cults that you don't want to be involved with, that are really, really, really scary, or that have a really perverted train of thought that's not in the individual benefit. That's what the left-hand path is about. It's about the individual. It's not about.
Or of course, it's like I've spoken to a lot of people over the years. People that didn't appear, here, but on my channel, I spoke to hundreds of people that didn't appear on my channel, but they'll talk about how basically they joined these orders, but basically it was more or less an excuse to use the people, either for whatever.
Yeah,
and like this ridiculous idea that it's like you commit crime to prove yourself to the order that you're not going to. It's like, yeah, you joined more of a gang than anything else.
Yeah, it's esoteric orders. You really, if you're like getting into the Thelemitic AA or OTO, you're not probably run into any issues. I don't have any problems. I haven't seen any problems with that. The Temple of Set, You know, big brand orders you're probably okay with. I don't recommend the Freemasons, by the way, if anyone's watching this. I had a sponsorship from a 4th degree Scottish Rite Mason when I was 16 years old. I don't like their order policies. I don't like their shit. I'm all about freedom and expression and individual liberty and freedom of choice and will, and I don't believe that they represent that accurately, and I believe that they are an oppressive esoteric force with their agenda, and I recommend that you stay away from them, and they're also fucking sexist, so you know.
Okay, I found one word. Erzhz would be poisonous item. Well, either something as a verb or an adverb or whatever you attach that term to. And the other two I just have as numbers, because I can put anything into numbers. So 8-5 is mrkr, and qul is, the Q is 7 times, and the L is
Does it translate to the operator to ascend to non-dualistic state must quit poisons?
Well, if you put in whatever order, because yeah, something's being eclipsed, and something's being discovered, but it's beyond morality, and there's symbols involved and stuff. But
actually, you've touched on something.
It's not a regular paragraph or sentence or something.
Yeah, we'll go into that after the stream. That doesn't need to be done on stream, I don't think. So if that message channel,
I just like to say that that's as far as I figured out what it means.
That seems like a pretty fucking serious message that you just pulled there. So
has it ever seemed like you encountered the dead?
The dead? Have I ever encountered the dead? Well, I'm gonna be. I am into necromancy. I've just started collecting bones. I've just started getting used to it. I'm gonna be really careful what I say here. Sorry, repeat that question. I just forgot. It just slipped out of my head. I'm really sorry.
Has it ever seemed like you encountered the dead? And of course, I don't mean just the remains, but like some entity that is gone.
I've encountered reaper spirits, like death spirits that feed off of death essence. I have not encountered like a disincarnate person. And what I really see as disincarnated people is after a certain amount of time, if we're into the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you have called the second death of the astral body of light. And what happens is when you're up on the astral plane, and or what they call in Tibet the Bordeaux plains, is the astral body, the ego, the thing that I was talking about, the collective unconscious, the loop, the circle, the binding of your conscious content starts to open up and dissolve. And what you simultaneously go through on the astral plane is you go through the second death. You go through ego death, but this time without having a physical incorporated body to anchor you here to come back. And what that's doing is you're just being absorbed back into. You're coming back to singularity. You're being what people would call God. You're being recalled back to that. You're being recalled back. And what I actively do and what we actively engage in with these entities, if any of you are interested in the whole, wink, wink, bog stuff, which what they constantly talk about, the Become Living God movement, stuff like that, is the goal is to build a black body of light. Or even if you don't achieve that in your life, you can hook yourself back up to their chain of energy and they can feed you and they can prevent this from happening. This is one of the biggest deals you can make with these entities, is that they can prevent the second death from happening to you, and you can essentially be immortal on the astral, and that there is you can experience immortality on the astral, and you can collect energy and you can be feed off of it, but huge aspect of vampirism here, and you transcend that, and you can transcend the second death. That's what I'm getting at there. And that's truly, this is what I'm kind of being called to say here. That's truly what these entities really want to offer you. So if you want a bait, you want the bait, come take the bait. If you're interested in transcarnation of the human consciousness after death.
How much time do you think can be spent daily in spiritual practice?
Okay, as someone who has devoted their life to this, there is not enough time in the day to devote to this shit. When I'm not busy, when I'm at college, I'm channeling. You know, I could be writing sigils down on my notebook. They could be coming with me through messages. There is no fucking off time for this. There's no off switch for these entities. Once they're there, they're going to work with you. There's times where I've gone fucking running for a notebook. I have probably 80 or so notes open right now in the notes on my phone that I'm taking down jot notes as they speak with me throughout the day. There's no off switch. Sorry, repeat your question again. It's slipping out of my mind, man. How much time a day you should dedicate?
How much time can be spent, and is there a difference in the time in terms of like I do seasonals? I find the cross quarter nights and the solstices and the equinoxes, and some people do their thing once a week. Is there any difference in how you would treat the time in terms of something occasional, or is it just what comes up?
I treat you know, I dedicate and I devote every single day, and it's not just to the entities. I devote to myself. You know, I work out. I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to take care of my body. There's a body-mind connection here, right? So by doing that, that's also a devotional to your own spirituality, your own practices, taking care of yourself. Self-care is a huge part of this, okay? And these entities probably aren't going to fucking treat you seriously either if you don't take care of yourself. That's another thing that I've learned. If they're like, you're not even going to take care of your body, you're 350 pounds and you're dying, you're not going to lose weight, why the fuck would I help you? You're going to die here in a couple of years. Why would I make you rich? Why would I bring you this? You know? Then they'll set that up like you being fat and losing weight, or, you know, me building muscle or something like that as kind of a test of your will, you know, your higher will. If you can transcend the lower parts of the ego and discipline yourself in a hierarchistic level that will gain you things in your life. This is, I believe, referred to in Thelema as, I believe this is almost inner initiatic you were touching on, is polarizing the higher will. If you polarize and enforce the higher will, you will always succeed no matter what, right? Zero fractal aspect of divinity. It will sync up. It's polarity with rhythm, literally. We're going to do two poles right here. Let's just say making money is one. If you are starting businesses and you don't give up, okay, we have two poles. Unsuccessful business, successful business. Rhythm. Polarity, it only varies in degrees. You are magnetically pushing this. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a shit ton of resistance. There's going to be a shit ton of resistance in this first 50% here because it's magnetized, right? It's like a magnet. So it's going to, if you give up, it's going to clack. It's going to swing back. Rhythm's going to swing back the pole, okay? So as soon as you push and you get past 50%, it's going to want to pull this way magnetically. You're working with attraction and repulsion forces here.
Is there anything that you think would be difficult to do as part of the spirituality, or to not be included?
Ooh, what's difficult? What's difficult about this path? Okay, so in tantric cults, in the Agori, in the cult of Devi, and all these other Vamakarak sects, the left-hand path comes from India, just so you know, if anyone's wondering. Really beautiful culture, very distinct, very unique. In the Indus Valley, a lot of this stuff comes from here in Sanskrit. Hold on. Repeat your question again. I'm so sorry. I'm just like lapsing in the note, man.
Is there anything that you think would be difficult to do as part of one's spirituality, or would be not to be included?
Self-sacrifice. These entities at a point, once you get in contact with them, they don't care how much fruit and fucking vegetables you give them. You don't care about how much blood you give them. They don't care about animal sacrifice. They don't care about anything. They don't care about money. They care about nothing but transmuting you from lead to gold. Self-sacrifice. This is something that E.A. Coetting mentions a lot, especially in the Nine Demonic Gatekeepers path working, or any sort of path working at all. It's a self-psychological alchemization of what that is and what you are into your finite, most transcarnated form that is going to embody that which it means to hold power here on Earth. And you have to make sacrifices for this. For example, I love to smoke. I don't smoke anymore. I love to drink coffee. I'm quitting drinking coffee. I like to be lazy. I'm lazy Leo. I'm a Leo, for example. Lazy Leo of the sun. I am now working out and going back to train mixed martial arts again like I used to. You know, this is going to turn you from lead to gold. And, you know, I'll quote Sun Tzu right now, you know, no true gold feels the fires of the furnace. You know, any sort of lead, any sort of impurity is going to scream, melt, and fucking burn and die in the lake of fire. It's gonna be gone, you know. Then what comes out, it's like in Kabbalah, in Freemasonry, they have this saying, you know, you go from red sulfur to white sulfur. In left-hand path, you go from red sulfur to black sulfur. You go from the most purest, destructive, you know, disgusting, impure creature to something that mirrors divinity. And another thing I'm going to quote here, you can quote demonic enlightenment on this. Your sorcery is your life is a testament of your sorcery. If you have all this bad shit happening in your life and you want to go and facilitate contact these entities, go and fix that first. You need to put 110% focus on this. Or if you're seeing it as a last-ditch effort, I really encourage you to go do this because they will help you clean your life up. And sometimes doing this, if you don't have a proper foundation, you know, they're going to take a sledgehammer to your life. They're going to destroy your foundation. They're going to shake your life up. And if you run away, it's going to screw your life up forever. That's what's going to happen if you abandon them.
Well, kind of like going back to some of the experiences. It's like one of the things, if you run away from the experience, it's like, well, what was there on the other hand? But then like, you don't complete it, so it doesn't form a balance. You've just, you know, but like one of the experiences that I've had repeatedly is like an earthquake, but it's not a physical earthquake. And sometimes it's, I mean, there was a couple times where I wasn't sure in the middle of it.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I lived in California during a pretty big earthquake that like put a crack across the living room in of where we lived, you know, in the Bay Area, and you know, it destroyed that stadium, right? But yeah, so my associations with earthquakes aren't exactly, you know, I don't know if other people have positive association with earthquake, but anyways, but yeah, you stay to the experience, and you know, that's been part of the story too. It's like, because people, you hear these old stories, sometimes thousands of years old, about, you know, somebody was having an experience and they kind of like they shut it off. And the other more advanced seer or whatever is like, why did you do that? Continue your practice. Like I've been at an OTO lodge, and sometimes I would have experiences in the middle of the rituals, and there'd be this impulse, like totally to go up there and physically
offer question with your conscious mind to shut down what's happening.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
For your conscious mind to consciously question and shut down what's happening because it's unlogical and it's just happening. Like some of the things that I've experienced, my mind's like, is this real? This isn't real. And it's like, it's standing in front of me. I can reach out and touch it. It's real, you know?
Well, I figure there's different levels of real. Like I think a lot of what's going on culturally right now is because people are having halfway realizations that they don't quite understand. But it's like not there. But like my example that I was thinking was like, it wasn't shut down this time, like, but I withheld like to the end of the ritual, and sometimes you can go up and you can, like, you know, touch the things. I've done rituals in caves, and you know, we held off till the ritual was over to go explore the vision further because the ritual was over, right? But then you see people that, but sometimes, like early on, you do have experiences like, you know, yeah, well, some of them could be too scary. I'm not sure if I ever had quite that response, but
yeah,
like, but I do remember one time at the at a particular OTO lodge that this one guy, I don't know whether he was interacting with something or something. He just, you know, he didn't stay in place. He went over to the altar, which is supposed to, I mean, we're supposed to, you know, like for example, the Gnostic Mass.
Yeah.
So he, you know, instead of staying his place, he disrupted things by, you know, going to the other side of the room. And but I've my experience is if you hold off and you let it build, then you can experience at least as much.
Yeah.
because I do remember that some rituals I could go over afterwards. I can maintain the train. I don't banish. I've never been
No,
the
I
person to banish.
don't either.
So whenever it's like I
Stupid.
don't identify with it that way, and so it doesn't even work on me. I was talking to Daster Adam Daniels, and one of the things he brought up is that he's basically immune to these like exorcisms and stuff people do. It's like I study all sorts of mythology. I'm not. Oh, they said this verse. You know, that they're chasing the demons out of me or something.
These entities have their hooks so deep into me, it will never end. They're literally a part of me now and my own psychology. They're just under the surface. You know, when you work with them in a degree like I do, they will never leave. Once this door is open, it's never shut. It never ends. Death is not the end. This is an internal pact of Saturnalia. This is serious shit. You know, if you do this, if you want to have experiences, you want to know stuff about life after death, you want to have money, you want to have girls, you want to have the life, you know, you want to be the devil wearing the suit and tie, you know, with cigar on his lips, right? You need to go balls to the wall. There is no just, I'm just going to throw a spell once a week. No, it's you're going to do that spell every day. No, you're going to write, you're going to channel me every day. No, you're going to get your ass up at 5 in the morning and you're going to go work out. This is serious. This is elitism. This is not just, you know, do the right and you have girls and money and it's they're going to give you that, but you need to work for it. It's nothing is given for free here. It is earned. It's taken.
And honestly, when it's I mean what most people find, like you know, when you work into, I mean, sometimes the first thing, but both pathways in your body and other things, you know, and relationships with entities, with the spiritual world's got to build up. But once you get to that point, this idea that, oh, you don't enjoy life because you're, you know, not watching 4 hours of TV. I mean, you become numb to stimulation, and it's like, okay, you like
at all, actually, truth be told, you should be building your life. I see people walking around on their phones all day and they can't take it away from them. That's fucking slavery, dude. That's like literal hypnotic programming. And like, I'm gonna leave it at this: slavery still exists. Slavery of the mind, not physical slavery in Western countries, but slavery of the mind. If you look up Dr. Michael Aquino, the leader of the Temple of the Set at one time, he studied psychological warfare. He was deployed in Vietnam for psychological warfare. Things are used on the sheeple to move them by means via polarity, and it's just put right in front of them. I'll leave it at that.
well, I'm reminded of, you know, the ancient Egyptians had different words for, you know, being and that sort of thing.
Use the bathroom really quickly and grab a glass of water so we can continue the interview here.
Okay, I have to do that too. Could you just say a closing sentence, and maybe I'll get back to I'll probably get back to you in 5, 10, 15 minutes, something.
We're stopping the stream, or we're continuing in 15 minutes?
I'm going to close this here because I gotta go do something for like 10, 15 minutes or something, bathroom included. But
so the closing sentence is, so you want to be a black magician? Work your ass off, then. That's all I have to say.